Hi everybody!
So we've covered on this channel previously some JRPGs that are amazing to relax to. However, just like any video game, JRPGs can be infuriating at times. This can range from the games having tough bosses to the game just being boring, which is the cardinal sin in gaming. Or they can just be broken, buggy messes that are a chore to play. In this video, myself and some of my content creator friends are going to cover the JRPGs that have just plain pissed us off at various points. Timestamps will be used so you can move between the various games. My pick will be at the very end, so stick around for that. With that out of the way, let's see our first rage of the video.
Oh joy! Looks like Colin has invited me to another YouTube video. This time to talk about JRPGs that make me angry. Well, there aren't that many JRPGs that I hate. Many of them that I played have been enjoyable for the most part, but there are some game mechanics that makes me want to throw hot grease on a pile of kittens. And one game that made me feel that way, more often than not, is Final Fantasy VIII. Now calm down, put your pitchforks down. I actually like Final Fantasy VIII, but there are some things that piss me off about it. Hear me out, let me talk to you. Number one, the weapon system. Now, a sign of progress when you're going through Final Fantasy most times is getting better magic and better weapons and even better items. In this game, getting better weapons really don't matter, simply because all your best stats are linked to your magic, not your weapons. Weapons really don't do much in this game, save for the main character Squall, which he can get better limit breaks from them. Here, they just are practically props. Why? Why is that? Number two, they're punished for grinding. We've all done this in JRPGs. Taking your best party members, grinding them out to match levels, so you can be invincible. You can do that in Final Fantasy VIII, but at a price, because the monsters in the game, including the bosses, all level up too. So if you're at level 100, well guess what, sucker? The bosses are at level 100, so you might get a game over. I can't tell you how many times I have ran across the overworld in Final Fantasy VIII and somehow got a random game over by some random monster because my level was too high, and having to start from scratch after minutes upon minutes of grinding. I'm looking at you, Ruby Dragon and Marlboro. Both of you can go Anyway, let's move on to the next reason. Number 3! Limit breaks are random! In Final Fantasy 7, 9, and 10, when you're pushed to the breaking point, you can unleash a very powerful attack. In 7 it's called limit breaks, 9 and they're called trances, in 10 they're called overdrives, and you can choose which one you want. However, that's not the case in Final Fantasy VIII. You can do that, but with just only a few characters. Squall, for example, as he levels up with different weapons he gets, has only a 25% chance to execute his ultimate limit break, Lionheart. Why should it be only 25%? If I got this weapon and went through hell to get it, I should be able to hit this limit break each and every time I wish, not depend on RNGesus. Or I'll give you a second example. The lead female protagonist, Rinoa. She has not one, but 2 limit breaks. One with her dog Angelo, and the other called Angel Wing. Now, Rinoa's first limit break is with her dog Angelo. Now, learning limit breaks with Angelo is very simple. Just collect Pet Pals magazines across the overworld. And train with the dog. Now, when you have access to the limit breaks, do you get whatever limit break you like? No! No, you don't! It's all down to RNG. And Angelo does a random attack that you can't choose. Number 2 is Angel Wing. Angel Wing is when Rinoa enters a magic berserk state and casts offensive spells that she has already stocked without wasting any of her magic. And you're probably wondering what's wrong with that. I'll give you the main reason. You can't control what Rinoa casts. It can be a status attack or an offensive attack. She's just going to do it at any time, which can be quite annoying during boss fights, to the point where it's practically useless. Number 4! The junction system! Now, as a kid, I didn't understand how the junction system worked. I just thought it was overtly complicated and a bit hard. But once I played the game multiple times, I figured out how to manipulate it and how to easily exploit it to my advantage. But it may be quite complicated for newer players. And one big reason is because all your magic is linked to your stats. Why is this a thing? And if you use said magic, you lose your stats. Say if you have 100 ultimate spells and you have it linked to your strength stat. You use that ultimate spell, well guess what? Them stats go down. Who thought this was a good idea? And where do you even store these spells anyway? Do you store them in your pocket? Do you store them in your weapon? The game never explains this, but then again it's a video game. Do you really need an explanation? But still, where do you store these things? Number 5, the basketball court scene. Now, if you don't like spoilers, I strongly suggest you skip to another part of the video right about now. Have you skipped it yet? Alright, good. Alright, at the end of Disc 2, Trabia Garden is attacked by missiles, and we end up going there to survey the damage. We meet at the basketball court with our party, and we find out a very shocking revelation. That the majority of the party, save for Muranoa, all grew up together, and they somehow forgot that they did, until Irvine reminds them. And the reason why they forgot? Hold on, wait for it. It's because it's the price of them using the Guardian Forces. Now, for those who don't know what Guardian Forces are, they're called summons, aeons, eidolons, whatever you want to call them that particular game. But that's the price they pay for using it. It causes them memory loss. How freaking stupid. Who wrote this? And the final reason. Drawing magic sucks! How many times have you been in battle in Final Fantasy VIII where you spent more time drawing magic spells than actually fighting the monster or boss that you're supposed to be fighting? The fact that you can only draw up to 9 spells per turn makes the game more tedious than it is. Who thought this was a good idea? Whatever just happened to just learning a spell and be able to use it at any time? But we have to sit here and just draw magic, draw magic, draw magic, draw magic. Do you know how boring that is whenever you want to replay this game? Even with ×3 speed in later re-releases of this game, doesn't make this less tedious. The HP MP system that they've used for just about every other Final Fantasy was fine. They didn't need to reinvent the wheel. The wheel was round, and they wanted to make it square. You see what I did there? Ha 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 ha. I know Colin loves dad jokes, so I guess I should stop doing this right about now. I'm ashamed of myself for that joke. Oh god. Let's just move on to the next person.
Hi, my name is Chameleon Storm. I'm a retro and competitive streamer on Twitch, and as you can already tell, English is not my native language. I am playing video games basically all my life, and even though JRPGs aren't my strongest suit, I did try most of the popular ones back in the Super Nintendo and PlayStation 1 era. Final Fantasy VIII is to this day my absolute favorite, and it made me rage the first time I played it, because I simply couldn't beat the first guy in the in-game, game called Triple Triad. Even with multiple saves, it was impossible for me to win with my starter deck of cards, and I thought to myself, why is the game giving me such a heavy opponent as my first challenger in this game?
Hey, that's enough of that. Don't need a repeat of Final Fantasy VIII. Come on, let's move it on. You told me you had another game in store. So stop dilly-dallying, get back on track, let's go.
Anyways, I'm getting off track. because I actually wanted to talk about my real nemesis, which funny enough is pictured on the box art of the Super Nintendo game Secret of Evermore. It's an excellent game, don't get me wrong. Mechanics like your dog companion controlled by the CPU are to this day fundamental. For example, your good boy dog meat in Fallout 4. Ah, good boy, such a good boy. Who's a good boy? Yes, you are a good boy, good boy. Alright, so roughly 30 minutes into Secret of Evermore, you will encounter the first boss in the game called Thrax. And my god is it rough. He will spawn multiple small enemies that will hurt you while you're busy getting rid of his 2 arms. The main goal, and it's pretty obvious by design, is to get in the little, well, let's call it a cave, in his chest and attack his heart. That's the strategy to beat this sucker. Well, it does sound easy on paper, right? Right? But since he's dropping randomly an attack called Acid Rain on you and your doggo, you will be busy healing both characters while dodging and fighting the small bugs. The time window to get to the heart is very tight, and you have to make sure to charge up your attack to get the most out of it. And it doesn't help that you will get knocked back the entire screen after you attack the beast. As a kid, I felt like a heart surgeon performing all that at once. Just the tiniest mistake would ruin a good attempt, and if you run out of healing items, well, say goodbye to Doggo and your hero. Compared to what you fight before, this was a huge step in difficulty, and it made little Chameleon Storm rage so hard as a kid. I tried to play this game in the most recent years and forgot the scarring part early on in the game. Let's say it didn't go well. Even with creating a save state, I had a hard time beating this boss. And it made me wonder if they put his puny face on purpose on the box art just to tell you, well, if you see this face, you're in for a challenge. That is my pick for today's video, and thanks for having me, Colin.
Hey guys, As of the Ace here. Thanks again, Colin, for inviting me to this interesting topic. Okay guys, I gotta be honest, I suck at being a critic, and I guess if I challenge myself a bit more, I might know a few other games. However, the only game I can think of that had a few things that frustrated me, that would be Secret of Mana. Yeah, the predecessor of Trials of Mana that I mentioned as my relaxing JRPG. Don't get me wrong, Secret of Mana fans. Secret of Mana is truly a wonderful game. It really is. There's just some issues that drove me a little insane. So what are the things that caused me to feel this way? Well, that's easy. Neko. Are in this game. You're a ripoff. I'm joking. Kinda. Us Mana fans know how much of a cheapskate Neko is with his overpriced items. If that wasn't bad enough, he just keeps bumping up prices. Why bother with this pricey feline when you can go to any other shop and get the items for much less? Oh right, there are a few great things he has that the enemies don't drop and other stores don't supply. Okay, let's get to the serious frustration now. There are some things that slightly bothered me when I was streaming this over a year and a half ago. Getting Prim to join your party. To be able to have her in the second boss fight, you had to make sure that you speak to Dialogue first and then speak to one of the soldiers, which will trigger them to walk away. After she rescues Randy from some goblins, she'll ask for your help to go to the opposite direction of your next destination. Only then to reach a dead end and she will join you to your main objective. Now, here's the frustrating part. If you talk to Dialogue's soldiers until they leave, the goblins will capture you. If you don't, they won't. If you try to talk to Prim in Pandora and she did not save you from the goblins, she'll storm out without speaking to you, as she doesn't know you. If she did, she'll join you. If you tried to enter Gaia's navel before the Haunted Forest and you recruited Popoi, but you have Prim, she will leave you. If you visit the haunted forest first, Prim will note that you can't pass a certain obstacle without the axe, so she'll agree to go to Gaia's navel. This was what I knew off by heart since I played it twice before streaming it. What I went through on stream, though, blindsided me. Ow! Did you just slap me? This was indeed a slap across the face. Even my partner was surprised this was possible. If, like me, you spoke to Dialog but not to the soldiers before entering the water palace, you will no longer see them when you come back out. No goblins kidnap Randy. You reach a certain point in the haunted forest without Prim, whether she left you at Gaia's navel, she storms past you in Pandora, which happened to me, or you never even spoken with her in Pandora at all. The werewolves will attack you and you'll have to save her from them. And as you can see, it's a load of bull just how strong they are. They even cornered me, and here's sassy Princess Prim just standing there. I'm not justifying this anger, so just listen to me rage with emotions in this short footage. No. Stop hearing. Seriously, stop. Come on, no, not this again. It's like I have to pause. Let me try something. Yeah. Not again. I've got nothing. I wish the frustration ended there. But it doesn't, so strap on in because I'm going to show you the world. Beautiful, isn't it? It's really... Okay, you know I'm being sarcastic. The world and the world map quality is awful. Can't guide yourself properly, can easily get lost because certain places look the same or not obvious enough to know where to land. I was so lost on stream. I was looking up videos and even they looked lost. At least my favorite mana game showed so much improvements with the world map. I gotta give credit to Square Enix though. Well, Square at the time. Secret of Mana originally was planned to be a launch title for the SNES CD add-on. With the failed contract with Nintendo and Sony, Square had to adapt the game for the Super Nintendo cartridge format. A lot of story and gameplay was cut out and the release date delayed to 2 months later. Despite all the issues, it is the mana game that's on so many fans' top JRPGs of the 90s, even favorite game of all time. But seriously though, back in the 90s, we had no walkthroughs on the internet. Well, barely anything on the internet compared to now. Even us Aussie gamers didn't have magazines like Nintendo Power. How on earth were we supposed to know the game quality is going to affect the accuracy of hitting a pixel to activate a switch? There's something here that I need to do. What? One last irritating thing about Secret of Mana. The whole slow grinding of everything. Want to wear the strongest gear, wield strongest spells and weapons? Well, I hope you like multitasking and sidetracking because you're going to have to grind in the most frustrating way. Let's start with the slightly less annoying grind. Gear. This part of grinding isn't too bad compared to the other two I'll mention in a minute. Yes, the majority of the gear you can get can be bought. A couple strong gears only purchased through rip-off Neko, but there are 14 types of equipment that can only be dropped by certain enemies in their personal location, and there's really strong gear drops close to endgame. However, that location is only available once, and so once you leave there, it's gone, unless you load up an early save. Also, as we JRPG fans know, drops are instant. It's all grind till they drop, and the drops in this location take so long until the game feels like giving it to you. Now here's the most frustrating thing about grinding. There are 8 elementals you obtain for Prim and Popoy's magic abilities. Almost each elemental has 3 spells, and Prim's magic has different spells to Popoy's magic. Leveling up one elemental doesn't mean you are leveling that elemental for both Prim and Popoy though. They both have separate spells and so separate leveling up grinding. That's it? Oh no, that's what I call the somewhat easy grinding. Whilst trying to progress with the story and grinding those elementals, you are also trying to max all 8 weapons with all 3 characters. There's 8 levels and they take so long to level up if you aren't going to areas to fight and grind. If I wasn't clear before, I'll say it again. You need to max all 8 weapons 3 times. The best way to do it is once a character levels up a weapon up, give it to the next character to level it up once they level up their current weapon. It's a good strat. Until you remember that you need to also go into the menu to check that you have the upgraded weapon orb to continue leveling up the weapon for the characters. And just so you know, some of the weapon orbs can be missable as they are found in well-hidden chests. In case you haven't noticed, there's a lot to keep in mind and track of whilst progressing through the story. To top it off, the last 2 elementals you get are so close to endgame, so it takes even longer to finish the game if you want to max those last 2 elementals. Especially with Dryad. That elemental drains Prim's and Popoy's MP like crazy. At least maxing Dryad is worth it when versing the final boss. This game is amazing. The storytelling, the characters, Flammy, just look at her, she's so cute. Of course it wouldn't be an as a vibe if I didn't bring up the amazingly beautiful soundtrack. It is so good. Trials of Mana is essentially what Secret of Mana could have been. Like, I'm not kidding. When I was doing some research on this and noticed some of the things they had to cut out, there were things that Trials of Mana ended up doing and more. I think I would have loved Secret of Mana more if they hadn't gotten rid of it. I love playing games that have multiple playthroughs because of the story. It's why I love Trials of Mana. It's why I love Fire Emblem Three Houses. But hey, at least the Secret of Mana remake made improvements. Oh my god, I can see the map! I can see where I'm going! And oh look! It shows the name of the place I'm going past and going to land in. And the grinding is the same, but at least the stats are better laid out, clearer and not eye-straining. Even Neko is... oh, nope, he's still a ripoff. But I'm glad to see that when I played the remake, the experience was better. I appreciated and loved the OG Secret of Mana more and didn't get so frustrated because my experience of this game was awesome. Nope, not even this happened to me, thank God. My heart goes out to my fellow Mana fans who experienced the constant crashes from this remake and raged. Especially my partner who introduced me to the original SNES game. Thanks again, Colin, for inviting me to another amazing collab. I think I actually raged more explaining and typing this than I did playing it. Must be the reminiscent memories flooding back in. I'm Azza the Ace, and I'll see you guys next time.
Hey guys, Up and Nimbus here. So once again, Colin Lack has invited me to a collaboration of his, but this time around, we'll be talking about Japanese role-playing games that made us rage. Now I realize my game choice is a pretty easy target to make fun of and talk crap about, but I still would like to talk about this game once again because it is an utter disappointment and it really pissed me off. So as you know, with the Pokemon series, we've had remakes and remasters of plenty of older generations back to Fire Red and Leaf Green and Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, and all of those remakes had a lot of love and care put into them, but unfortunately, when it came to Generation 4, which a lot of people, including myself, were super excited about seeing in high definition, completely reimagined, was basically slapped across the face with a cactus and told we can't enjoy nice things. Honestly, Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl have got to be the most soulless Pokemon games I've ever played in my life. The funny thing is, BDSP actually plays pretty well for a Pokemon game. It's fine for gameplay for the most part, but the thing about these games which honestly frustrates me is that, again, there's no heart and there's no soul. You can see that there is no care in the world for these games. It was literally just a rush job to print money, tie people over until Legends Arceus, and also the eventual Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, which also had bugs and issues. These games had a lot of bugs and glitches. It was a visual eyesore. There was no effort in regards to the visual appearance or aesthetics of these games. It was so plain and flat and generic, and it really was like a Fisher-Price toy. I understand, yes, Pokemon is a franchise catered towards a younger audience, but they have an older generation of people to cater towards, and they know the people that initially played the original Diamond and Pearl are now all adults. This is not a way to be treating your longtime fan base whatsoever. The animations and the facial expressions on characters is just so lazy, man. Seeing dialogue boxes come up, but then not actually see a modern modeled character even move their mouth. How could you not even have the effort to animate lips? How could you have Oris, to me personally, which I absolutely adored, and I thought it was very faithful to Generation 3, and it included so many other enhancements, and the post-game quest with Zinnia, I think it was like the Delta quest or something with Zinnia and Rayquaza, which is one of the many reasons why I loved Oris, and then you come over to BDSP and nothing. Absolutely nothing to this game. Honestly, and I kid you not, when I first started up the game, it was within the first hour of playing it, I nearly started falling asleep at the controller. There was no engagement whatsoever. It just sucks. Waiting all those years for what would have been gorgeous, beautiful remakes on the Nintendo Switch, and just to think one of the biggest media franchises in the world didn't even make the effort for a remaster to look even half decent. It's so unfortunate that I could not enjoy the games to the full extent that we all would have loved and hoped them to be. And that is why I've chosen Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl as my game choice for a Japanese role-playing game which makes me rage. Thank you so much, Colin Lack. I loved being a part of this collaboration, and as always, I look forward to seeing everybody else's choices in this video. Until the next time, everybody, Up in Nimbus is signing off.
Hello, Chicken Villets here, and thank you once again to Colin Lack for having me on to discuss some more JRPG fun. But this time, we're not talking about fun JRPGs, we're talking about JRPGs which make us rage. So, the JRPG which made me rage was Fire Emblem Engage. I'm going to tell you why.
Now, before we begin, don't get me wrong, Fire Emblem Engage is a good game. The Fire Emblem combat is phenomenal in this game, the graphics on Nintendo Switch is fantastic, and the music is brilliant. So you might be thinking, well, why are you raging about this game? Well, I'll tell you for why. And it's down to one thing, and one thing alone. It's this lack of story. The story in this game is minuscule. Well, in my eyes anyway. Now, I did play this game fully, and it just did not pick up whatsoever. Now, I'm not going to give you any spoilers about this game, because, you know, this might be a game that you actually want to experience. And don't let me put you off from playing this game, because, look, this is my experience with it. But it took me 20 chapters before there was any significance to the story. The characters in general, your main character, the Divine Dragon, I felt no connection to. And generally what it boiled down to in this story was, I'm the good guy, I'm going to fight you, Mr. Baddie, and then once you've beaten the baddie basically becomes your pal. He just is like, yeah, you've beaten me up, I'll be your pal. You need real conflict in the game, and this just did not feel good. And comparing the story to the likes of Fire Emblem Awakening or Three Houses, this just did not meet that bar. But anyway, what do you think about Fire Emblem Engage? Let myself and Colin Lack know in the comments down below. This has been Chicken Fillets, and until next time, tatty bye.
Hello lovely people, I'm Luca from Faithlessness Gaming, and I can get really angry playing video games. Sometimes a game mechanic is frustrating, a boss is too hard, or I'm just bad at it, let's be honest. But this is not what my pick is about. The JRPG I raged over the most is none other than Star Ocean, Integrity and Faithlessness. This game is the biggest disappointment in my entire life as a gamer, and easily the worst Star Ocean in the series. SO5 suffered from a visibly low budget. There are hardly any cutscenes, and the ones that made it into the game are ridiculous. For example, instead of showing a battle between spaceships, you can only see the characters in the cockpit talking about what's happening outside. Wow, a great cutscene, Square Enix. The rest of the story is told in the game engine. That takes away so much of the characters' personalities and development, because you almost never see their faces and reactions. Also, there's hardly any original music for SO5. Most of the tracks came from the other Star Ocean games. And why? Because of the low budget. The side quests are all trash too. Defeat 5 this, talk to that, run here, blah blah blah. Boring stuff, all of it. And the rewards aren't worth it either. That would have been okay if the combat was exceptionally good, but it isn't. Combat in Star Ocean 5 is just alright. Some of the moves and animations are exactly the same as in other Star Ocean games, but that's okay for me. The thing I really didn't like about the combat was that all 6 characters are in battle at the same time, which leads to a total chaos at times. But probably the worst thing about this game, there's no space travel. There is no point in the story where you visit other planets. Never! The 2 Star Oceans before made so much effort in building a rich universe and gave us the possibility to visit multiple places. In Integrity and Faithlessness, you will run around a lot what feels like the same 5 areas over and over again. This is another indicator for a low budget. So ultimately I actually quit the game in rage because the boredom of this game drove me insane. Also, I was really angry at Square Enix at the time because they released a low quality JRPG and I felt like they completely destroyed one of my favorite game series. Luckily Star Ocean 6 was a good game. Did you play Star Ocean Integrity and Faithlessness? And can you relate to my hate? Tell us in the comments. Thanks for having me, Colin. It's a pleasure being part of this collaboration. Alright guys, have a great day and I'll see you next time.
Hey there everyone, I'm Shinky from Shinky JRPGs, and thank you to Colin for inviting me to be a part of your video. Colin had messaged me a few months back and asked if I wanted to be part of a RPGs that pissed you off video. I said yes and instantly knew what game I wanted to talk about. That game is Lunar Dragonsong, also known as Lunar Genesis in Japan and Europe, released in 2005 for the Nintendo DS. Growing up, I loved the Lunar series. Both Lunar Silver Star Story Complete and Lunar 2 Eternal Blue are some of my favorite games even to this day. But Lunar Dragonsong? Have you ever played a game that made you want to commit a felony? Lunar Dragonsong is that game for me. If anyone has been around my channel or knows me personally, you will know that I'm usually a very calm and gentle person who has incredible amounts of patience. But Lunar Dragonsong is the worst fucking piece of trash in existence, and it deserves the same fate as E.T. for the Atari 2600. In fact, I would rather have E.T. get a modern day release than anyone ever needing to suffer the pain of this garbage ever again. But Shinky, Lunar is a great series. Surely Dragonsong isn't that bad. No, it is bad, and it physically offended me. Picture a 19-year-old Shinky, super excited to finally go buy a DS with his first paycheck, and sees Lunar sitting on the shelf, and memories of the first 2 games come flooding back. Happiness in its purest form. I go home, do the initial new console setup, and turn on Lunar Dragonsong expecting those exact same feelings. Only to realize this is not a game that will deliver the same joy. What is this shovelware bullshit? The game starts okay, explaining Lunar lore with the 4 dragons and the goddess Althena, but that's where the semi-okay part ends. Once the gameplay starts, it's all downhill from there. First of all, you run painfully slow. And if you decide you want to dash on the world map, which, is a common feature in most RPGs, you lose health, almost as if your HP is tied to a stamina system. And then you get into a battle. Now, JRPG battles are not that hard to get right. Now, Lunar Dragonsong gets rid of the strategy RPG element, which I can deal with, that's fine. However, this game manages to even screw up turn-based combat. The turn-based combat in this, first of all, you cannot target manually. It's all done automatically with terrible AI. If you manage to actually have the patience to finish a battle, it gets worse. You have to choose between experience or items as a battle reward. It would not be an exaggeration to say Lunar Dragonsong has the worst JRPG battle system in the history of the genre. The story is not terrible, but in comparison to its predecessors, it does not compare whatsoever. However, this game, being the first game chronologically, makes it even worse as this sets up the whole base of the series. Lunar fans have been clamoring for a prequel to Lunar's Silver Star story, focusing on Dragon Master Dine and his companions. Instead, we get this load of absolute trash. This game is an absolute insult to the Lunar fanbase and should be cast into the depths of hell. I absolutely despise this game. It pissed me off to no end, but I digress. Thanks for listening to my rant, and big thanks to Colin for inviting me to take part of this big old JRPG rage fest. Hope to see you all around my channel, Shinky JRPGs. Until we meet again!
A JRPG I quit was honestly Dirge Cerberus, which is a Final Fantasy VII spin-off title for the PlayStation 2. It really had everything it took to be a success, and it was released on the PlayStation 2 in 2006, but unfortunately it fell really flat. To start, it's a third-person shooter. It's an action RPG, JRPG, created by Square Enix. When completing a level, players would earn EXP to either increase Vincent Valentine's level and stats, or you could use that to exchange it for gil. It's a great concept on paper, but it was not the place to implement it on the PlayStation 2. The controls are extremely clunky. It's hard to even aim without using mods on emulators to help with aiming, and to make the game look visually pleasing. The story's a mess. They seemingly tried to throw everything into this piece to connect it to Advent Children in some way, some shape, or some form. And the boss battles are either ridiculously cheap, like really, really cheap, stand in one spot and shoot them in the face, or they're ridiculously hard with no way to win. You can't hide anywhere, and you get one shot every single time. There's no in between. They have no difficulty curve on this whatsoever. I ended up having to watch cutscenes on YouTube after I quit, and I still have trouble playing it to this day, and it's 2023. It's kind of ridiculous, but honestly, I feel Square should have released this at least on the PlayStation Portable, where, like their experimentation with Crisis Core, they might have had a little more luck. But that's just my opinion. Otherwise, say what you want, I still think Dirge Cerberus was a big old flop and disaster. And it really didn't do anything good for Vincent, because he ended up getting ambushed a lot in the cutscenes anyways. This is supposed to be a super powerful guy, and you have him get beat up and his materia stolen. Smart, Square. Very smart. You can see why I stopped playing.
Hey everyone, Goto the editor here. So, I was actually talked about doing this part, and I am sorry about my raspy voice. I am still sick. I really want this project out ASAP. The game I want to talk about, showing on screen right now, is Baten Kaitos, Eternal Wing, and I don't remember the second part of the title. This game pissed me off. I like how it looks, I like the aesthetics of the game, but having a card battle system, that pissed me off. It is slow, it is monotonous, it doesn't have its place in an RPG. Oh, here, let me toss this green banana and then do a light flare, sorry. And, oh, look at that, I killed an enemy by chucking green bananas. Where does that make sense? And it's a card. It's not even the actual thing. I'll be honest, the game does have a very nice, colorful aesthetics, and it is talking about the end of the world and a certain dilemma, which, I mean, it's pretty nice. I mean, it has a good story, but the linear of the game is just annoying. The repetitiveness of the game is annoying. The battle system is annoying. If they would have made this more open world, if they would have made this more active combat, I might have liked this game a little bit more. But it just makes me rage. There is no sense. When you attack, you use certain items. When you defend, you have to use certain other card items, which will do negative damage, so you can, take less damage. It doesn't make sense. Oh yeah, I'm about to get attacked. Here, I'm gonna pull out this fire vest. Oh, I just saved myself 4 damage. Woohoo! Anyways, before I get too riled up and before I lose my voice a little bit more, I'm gonna give it back to Colin. So, Colin, thank you for having me. It was fun editing this video. Take it away.
So it was relatively easy for me to choose which game was the one that pissed me off enough to classify it as the game that made me rage against a JRPG. And no, I wasn't killing in the name of because of this game. Lame music joke aside, I can only think of 3 JRPGs that have ever made me rage. Those being Final Fantasy VII Remake thanks to the minigames, and Ys 9 thanks to a boss fight where the weak spot was janky to reach. But these games weren't so egregious in their issues that I feel that I need to rant about them. The third JRPG that made me absolutely rage, and to the point I quit playing the game, which is a rarity for me, was Bandai Namco's Scarlet Nexus. Now, I'm not saying Scarlet Nexus is a bad game. I would call it a middling one. So why did this game make me rage so much that I just had to quit the game? I quit the game because the game was super frustrating thanks to a flaw in its gameplay design. If it had been a janky design but was actually fun to play, I could have overlooked it. However, I feel like co-developers Bandai Namco Studios and TOS didn't know what direction they wanted to take the game. Apparently, Scarlet Nexus was developed by a lot of the same people as Code Vein from 2019. For those not in the know, Code Vein is a Souls-like title with an anime aesthetic, something that makes it rather unique in the world of Souls-likes, which are typically grim, dark, and gothic, whilst also lacking color. Code Vein doesn't lack color, but otherwise its DNA is identical to a Souls-like title. Souls-likes are known for being mega difficult and punishing to the player, but they tend to be rather slow in terms of gameplay, and therein lies the problem I have with Scarlet Nexus. The game cannot decide if it wants to be a twitchy arcadey-like experience akin to the Ys series, or if it's aiming for the slow and methodical gameplay that's typical of Souls-likes. It's because of Scarlet Nexus being in the mushy middle that annoys me so much. It tried to please everybody and wound up pleasing very few. This saddens me as I really wanted to love this game, as it had 2 storylines akin to one of my all-time favorite JRPGs, which also happens to be another Bandai Namco title, that being Tales of Xillia. I feel like had this game picked a side and stuck to it, the game would have been far more an enjoyable experience. The story is intriguing, the characters are interesting, and the game is gorgeous graphically, especially on the PS5. It just let me down by its gameplay not exactly having a defined identity. Otherwise, I actually quite like this game. It just comes down to the fact the enemies will get in cheap shots against you because of projectiles you can't see, and enemies can be spongy. Those are 2 things I cannot stand in gaming. I hate spongy enemies because it feels like it takes the skill factor out of it. I also hate the lack of warning from incoming projectiles. That's something that does annoy me in Castlevanias, and why I don't always play them. Sorry, Editor Belmont, I know they're your favorite genre, and I do love them. But that design philosophy they dogmatically stick to does make me mad. But yeah, Scarlet Nexus just does so many little things that piss me off to the point this game massively disappoints me. I want to thank each and every creator who participated in this collaboration. I can't wait to see your entries. If you liked anyone who participated, please check them out. Their channels and socials will be in the description along with mine. Also, if you liked this video, hit the like and subscribe buttons. Also, let me know in the comments section which JRPGs have made you rage. Until next time, keep blazing that trail.